These are the frequently asked questions for Algebra 2 for Section 4.7, where we are solving using the quadratic formula. And I am going to take a peek at number 18 with you. And number 18, the problem is it's not in the correct format. Whenever we want to solve, we're trying to get a 0 on one side, and we want this in standard form. So I'm going to add the x squared to both sides, because I like to keep my a value, my coefficient for my a value positive. So that'll be x squared plus 6x minus 5 equals 0. And then what I need to do is recognize that a is 1, b is 6, c is negative 5, and sing the little song. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared is 36 minus 4 times 1 times negative 5 all over 2 times 1, 2 times a, which is 2. So this will be x equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of, well, underneath the radical we have 36 plus 20, which is 56 divided by 2. Now, the square root of 56, I definitely know 4 is going to go into that, so you check for a second. 4 goes in there once, 14 times, and we can see there aren't going to be any other perfect squares that will go into it. So x equals negative 6 plus or minus, and that square root of 56 is the same thing as the square root of 4 times the square root of 14, which is 2 square roots of 14 over 2. And last but not least, just like we did on the simplifying roots worksheet, because all of the integers that we see, this negative 6 right here, this 2, and this 2 are all divisible by 2. Well, we need to do that. So that will give you negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 14. And the 2 on the bottom, of course, becomes a 1. And so we don't need that down there. We'll simplify that out. Negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 14. Then, thought I'd do another one where things were not set up perfect, like number 19. So we would have 3x squared equals 2 times 2x plus 1. In order to put this in standard form with a 0 on one side, we need to distribute. So 3x squared equals 4x plus 2. And then go ahead and move everything over to one side. And like I mentioned before, I like to keep my a positive. So I'm going to keep that 3x squared over here, but I'm going to move the other two terms over by subtraction. And then my a will be 3, my b is negative 4, and my c is negative 2, and x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x equals 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared is going to be 16 minus 4 times 3 times negative 2. And that will all be over 2 times 3, because that was our a value, which is 6. So x equals 4 plus or minus, and that radical is like a grouping symbol, which means kind of like parentheses. You have to do what's underneath there first. So we're going to have 16 plus 24, because we have a minus a negative back there. So 16 plus 24 will give us 40, so the square root of 40 all over 6. And then the square root of 40 we can simplify. Square root of 40, we've got that 4 that goes in there again. So square root of 40, square root of 4, square root of 10. So 2 square roots of 10. X equals 4 plus or minus 2 square roots of 10 over 6. Check out your 3 integers. They are all reducible by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that will be 1 square root of 10. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that will be 2 plus or minus the square root of 10 all over 3. And again, those are 2 separate solutions. Now, some word problems. So let me erase. So I will have room to go over those word problems with you. And really, The word problems are just get the variables in the right spots, get the numbers where they're supposed to go, and plug it into the quadratic formula. So 23, your class is selling boxes of flower seeds as a fundraiser. The total profit, P, depends on the amount X that your class charges for each box of seeds. There's our little equation. P equals negative 0.5x squared plus 25x minus 150, and that models the profit of the fundraiser. What's the smallest amount in dollars that you can charge and make a profit of at least $125? So that 125 has to go in for P because that was our profit. And in order for me to use the quadratic formula, I need to have a 0 on one side. So I'm going to have to subtract that 125. And see what I get there. So negative 275 back there for a little C value. A is negative 0.5, B is 25, and C is negative 275. Now, in this case, I'm not going to take the time to move everything back over so that my A can be positive. Realization here is that we're talking about money, so it's going to be decimals anyway, so we might as well use the calculator for x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x is going to equal negative 25 plus or minus the square root of 25 squared, which is 625, minus 4 times negative 0.5 times negative 275 all over 2 times negative 0.5. All right, so now it's time to think about, which of these I want to punch in. Now, I will go ahead and punch both of them in, but notice my denominator is going to be negative. So if I want a positive answer out of this one, I need to get something negative for my numerator. So let's go ahead and crunch the numbers underneath that radical. And we have our 25 squared minus 4 times negative 0.5 times negative 275. And that comes out to 75. And normally I would want to simplify that, but in this case, again, because it's money, we're just going to go ahead and plug it into the calculator, so it's no big deal. And the bottom works out almost a little too nice. We get a negative 1 down there. But just remember, that is to show us that we really want the negative answer in the numerator, because then we can divide it by a negative 1 and figure out what we have. So x will equal negative 25 plus the square root of 75 divided by negative 1, and negative 25 minus the square root of 75 divided by negative 1. So we punch them in and see what we get here. Negative 25 plus the square root of 75 is negative 16.3397 blah, blah, blah. But if you divide that by your negative 1, of course, it's going to be positive. So $16.34 approximately. And then for the other one, we have negative 25 minus the square root of 75. And again, we're going to divide that by a negative 1, which is basically just changing the sign. So this would be $33.66. So we go back and we read the question. And in number 23, it said, we're selling boxes of flower seeds as a fundraiser. The profit depends on the amount X that your class charges for each box of seeds. What's the smallest amount in dollars that you can charge and make a profit of at least $125? Well, we have a choice here. This one actually came out with 2 positive answers, but they told us the smallest amount is the one we want. So that will be $16.34. So 2 solutions this time, but we had to meet the requirement that it was the smallest amount to give them that profit. Then we go back up to 24. And 24 says your local bakery sells more bagels when it reduces prices, but then its profit changes. The function y equals negative 1,000 x squared plus 1,100 x minus 2.5 models the bakery's daily profit in dollars from selling bagels. X is the price of a bagel in dollars. What's the highest price the bakery can charge in dollars and make a profit of at least $200? All right, so there's our equation with that 200 in there for y. And just like last time, what we want to do is get everything over on one side so that we can go ahead and use the quadratic formula. So that means subtracting 200 from both sides. So 0 will equal negative 1,000 x squared plus 1,100 x. And then we have minus 202.5. And again, if we're going to use a calculator, the negatives, just leave them exactly where they are. So A is a negative 1,000, B is 1,100, and C is a negative 202.5. And X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So X is a negative 1,100 plus or minus the square root of 1,100 squared minus 4 times negative 1,000 times negative 202.5 all over 2 times negative 1,000, which is negative 2,000. So again, I start thinking, you know, there might be two answers out of this one. They might both come out positive. One might be positive, one might be negative. I'm just going to want positive answers from this. So we grab a calculator to see what all of that wonderful stuff is underneath the discriminant. Underneath that radical symbol called the discriminant there. So 1,100 squared. And then we need that minus 4 times negative 1,000 times negative 202.5. And we get 400,000. All right. So let's keep going with this. We need x equals negative 1,100 plus the square root of 400,000 all over negative 2,000. And x equals negative 1,100 minus the square root of 400,000 divided by negative 2,000. So let's see what we get here. Negative 1,100 plus the square root of 400,000, and then divide that answer by negative 2,000. And this comes out to about a negative 27 cents. I'm trying to get that without having to move this up any farther so everybody can see this. There we go, that's a little better. So this answer came out negative, which, you know, we're not going to use. So we go after the other one, negative 1,100 minus the square root of 400,000, and divide that by a negative 2,000. And that comes out to about 87 cents. And in this one, we were supposed to figure out, you know, the largest amount they could charge anyway. And I know they have about 86 cents, but a business is probably going to round up on that to 87 cents. So again, it's just a matter of putting the numbers where they're supposed to go in the formula and then just carefully using the formula to get what you need.